Born in 1977, the band INXS practically owned the 1980s with platinum-selling records like The Swing and Listen Like Thieves, and of course, Kick, an album that sold millions of copies worldwide and made INXS a stadium name. In 2005, as you may know, the band used the reality show Rockstar INXS to replace original frontman Michael Hutchence, who died in 1997. Canada's own J.D. Fortune won that competition, eventually fronting the band on tour, singing original songs and past hits. And today, J.D. Fortune and INXS guitarist and writer Kirk Pengilly join me here in Studio Q. Hello, you two.
Hey, how are you,
What
bro?
a pleasure it is to see you.
That was very cool. That
was awesome.
I wasn't expecting that.
That was awesome.
Which part of it?
Well, both parts.
The accolades, the history, or the song?
No, both parts. But Never Tear Us Apart, we actually recorded in a couple of different keys because we, were looking at male and female singers, the new version. So I wasn't sure, I couldn't remember actually with the version on the album if it was in the same
key. And it is.
I thought, oh, what's going to happen?
and almost in the exact same tempo too. I mean, it's
pretty much
impossible that, So let's get this Original Sin. It's your 12th studio record in 30 years. Kirk, why is it time now to revisit your older songs?
Look, it was just something that kind of came up. We a couple of years ago, the band guys, the five of us went in just to work on some instrumental stuff in a studio in Sydney, and we, for fun, decided to take the track this time off Listen Like Thieves and do a really weird Pink Floyd-y sort of instrumental version of it, and it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of weird trying to change it all around when you're so used to the original recording. But that spawned the idea of actually doing a whole album of this, and using different vocalists from around the world.
Rob Thomas, Tricky, Nikki Costa.
Yeah, Ben Harper, of course, that was on that then, and Pat Monahan from Train, and J.D. Fortune, of course.
Of course. So J.D., this is called a tribute album.
Yes.
I mean, the band could have released a greatest hits or a remix record. Why do a record of reimaginations, as I said, of cover songs, essentially, of your own hits?
I think that, for lack of I've been in the band since 2005, and it's funny to hear you say 12th studio record. I mean, for me, this is only the second one that I've worked on. But what I gather, just from knowing these fine gentlemen for this period of time, is it's sort of like, I guess, when a couple sort of renews their vows. This is what these songs are. It's a renewal of the potency and the passion, the energy, and the romance that lives, and also the pain. There's a lot of pain in those songs, and that's what I think. Rock and roll isn't about fluffy rabbits unless you're biting their heads off and putting them in leather chaps. You know what I mean? So, I mean, honest to God, nobody buys normal. I mean, you have to have an extraordinary product in the marketplace nowadays.
Could you say that again?
I said rock and roll is like not like fluffy rabbits. If it's rock and roll, is biting their heads off and then putting them in a pair of leather chaps.
Right.
So, speaking of which, I'm really glad I wore mine today.
But he forgot to put his jeans on.
Rabbit head not included.
Have you said that before? Because if you haven't, you're a genius.
No, I haven't said that before.
Just
winging it,
yes.
baby. It must be this is an incredible environment in here, by the way.
Well,
really laid back. I love it.
Trying to make you comfortable.
Yeah, we've done Kirk and I alone have done probably close to 100 of these over the last 5 years, and sometimes you get into a studio situation where it's just kind of like, it's like zoom, 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 and you have no idea when you're about to start speaking or that you're even on the air. And this is a fantastic form, by the way. And kudos, man.
Thank you.
But like I was saying, I think this is just a renewal of the passion and the energy and the like I said before, the pain. When I hear these songs, like you were saying, Don't Change is on this record, and that to me is the most rock and roll song on the record because it's the most lonely, it's the most real for me. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be able to sing the original versions of these songs all over the world, hundreds of times. From the time the show, Rockstar INXS started to the time the tour finished, I probably sang these songs close to 150 times. Listening to them from the time I was younger, I probably heard, and so for me it was really cathartic as well. And that sounds ironic because I haven't. God bless Michael Hutchence and Andrew Ferris for writing such material, but at the same time making those songs our own as a brand. Going out in 2005, the brand INXS, the band changed as well as I thought the sound, and to hear Andrew and Kirk do that so beautifully, it really the first time I heard it, I had tears just streaming down my face.
You're talking about the song "Don't Change,"
Don't Change,
which is an acoustic version of
Absolutely.
that song. It's absolutely
Breathtaking.
beautiful. But Kirk, you do get that it's a bit strange or odd or meta, if you will, for a band to be doing its own tribute record of itself.
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess in some way, I don't think we really ever looked at it as a tribute record. I think it's just sort of become that through the media a bit, you know. Although, I mean, obviously, you know, Michael was in our thoughts with a lot of it. I mean, probably the main reason we got Tricky was, you know, for media was because Michael was a huge fan of Tricky and Massive Attack, as we all were, you know. But look, I think, you know, as I said, it really happened by accident, just because we experimented with this instrumental version of a song, and it just developed out of that. And I think, you know, one of the things I think we've felt too is that for years and years, like even from probably the early to mid 80s, we've had remixes done, or you know, extended club mixes or whatever, and especially in the late 80s, 90s, you know, DJ remixes
Sure.
and whatever.
Yeah.
And that's someone taking your song and basically sending it back to you with maybe some of the vocal from the original, and that's it, you know. And so I think we kind of thought, you know, well, let's do our own kind of remix album. As it turned out, you know, they're probably more like commercially lengthed songs.
And
but
how do you approach that creatively? I mean, when you're, how did you approach the reinterpretations instrumentally, musically of this material?
we got help. I mean, some of it was
The band's not good enough, and just made them hits and played them for years.
Well,
but,
it is really hard. I mean, you know, JD's saying he's played them, some of them, you know, probably 150 times. I mean, we've played them probably 3,000 times, some of them, you know. But I think, you know, what we ended up doing to help us along, get the ball rolling, was we got a guy called James Ash, who is from an Australian band, Rogue Traders, and he's from a DJ background. So we kind of got him in to, you know, at least set up a bit of a bed for about half a dozen of the songs for us to work with. So he kind of came in initially as sort of the producer, and then about halfway through, John Farris sort of took over the executive producer role, and you know, each song all came about each song very differently, and the way we contacted and chose the singers all very differently too.
And they're not necessarily the biggest INXS hits in some cases.
No, that's right.
There's some unexpected covers here. How do you go, when you've got your back catalogue, how do you go about picking which 10, 12 songs are going to be the ones?
Yeah,
Lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers. Yeah, yeah. Look, it is. I don't know how it really happened. I mean, I guess James Ash picked a bunch initially because, you know, we said, well, look, you go away and work up some beds. So he needed to find songs that, you know, that he felt he could do something with or whatever. And then it went from there to some of the singers requesting a particular song. Like, you know, we always had intended Rob Thomas to do Never Tear Us Apart, and he actually did do a vocal on that. But he said, but guys, I really want to do Original Sin. So Original Sin wasn't on the cards until he brought it up.
Right. JD, as a fan of INXS, and now you know one of the guys who sings with them,
That's very diplomatic of you.
I'll get to that. But I wanted to ask you first of all what do you hear when you hear Tricky doing a take on INXS?
Well, first of all, I love, you know, as Kirk mentioned before, Tricky, and that whole movement was just really cool. And he's the only guy that, you know, makes not singing sexy. You know what I mean? Like, he's just really, it's not about singing. It's just about him. You know, it's about that voice. And, you know, when I hear that, it makes me want to move. But at the same time, you know, this version, I think it just, what it's done is it's given it a little bit more edge, you know, because as these songs travel down the highway of the music industry, you know, as we all know, it's the Wild West out here, and the highway system in the music industry it sucks. So there's cracks in the road, there's bumps, and you need a little bit of edge and a little bit of grip on your tires nowadays in order to keep going down the road. So this song, I think, gives it.
Are you going to start talking about rabbits again?
Absolutely, man. I got a bunch of rabbits.
You've got metaphors pouring out of your.
Well, you know, hey, man,
your pores.
It's kind of like what I do. So
he's a poet.
You know.
It's very impressive.
But anyway.
But.
Yeah.
Well,